Well, welcome everyone to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Center here in Powell River, BC. And our topic, the contributions of this very interesting character by the name of William White. And White began his career in the 1970s as what we would call an outreach worker, and later would become a counselor. But he began to see these things. Now, in the 1970s, we can say with some confidence that people didn't have a high opinion of people with addictions or even of addiction counselors. They were sort of the low people on the mental health totem pole. And White noticed a lot of things going on that he was actually quite appalled by. For example, he talks about seeing leather restraints used, straitjackets, some pretty brutal methods of getting people to withdrawal from drugs. He noticed a real lack of training with the counselors, and this general attitude that, okay, well, we'll deal with this guy with an addiction problem, but geez, maybe, really, maybe he deserves to be homeless or deserves what he gets. That kind of attitude. So he became motivated to make a change in this way that we had of treating addicts. And so what happened for White and why he became so influential was he was immersed in this old style of addiction treatment, which is now known as the Minnesota model, or one of its variations. The sort of the code term for this is 12-step based. But also during the beginning in the 70s, 80s, and really getting on roll in the 90s, the scientists were getting involved. So there were actually psychologists doing really good research on how do we treat addiction and what is addiction, how do we prevent it. So he's sort of straddling the old and the new worlds in the addiction treatment field. And the second thing that makes him very interesting, he was fascinated with the history of addiction treatment. So back in the old days, of course, they had brilliant ideas like they were going to treat heroin addiction with morphine and things like that, which we now know is probably not the greatest idea. But as he followed it as time went on, and he wrote one of the most influential books, a popular history known as Slaying the Dragon. And it was really quite fascinating that how we've changed treatments, and a lot of that is actually based on sort of the moral conscience of the society at the time. As society changes how it views addiction, the treatment changes. But he was well versed in sort of the stigma on addiction and what the medical profession thought of people with addictions and to see this change. And so he became a great advocate for the new, more modern science-based approaches. Anyway, in this program, we'll take just four ideas that White had that have been quite influential in the field. And the first one is he's a great promoter of the idea that there are many pathways to recovery. In the old days, we used to think of this person called an addict. And in the old days, this person had very specific personality traits. In other words, it was sort of like this. There was no variation on a theme. And so the proposed solutions to this, for example, the Minnesota model, was just to give them some sort of treatment that was one size fits all. And White pointed out that, well, wait a minute, let's just hang on. Well, first of all, there's all sorts of differences. There's a 19-year-old person with a drug problem and an 80-year-old person. And maybe the same treatment isn't going to work. And there are addicts who are women and some who are men, and maybe we need a different kind of thing. There's some that have severe medical problems or maybe some mental health issues, and maybe they need this different form of treatment. Right? And so he really promoted this idea that there's not just one way to get recovery or remission, as he would put it. There are many ways, and it depends on the individual. And we have to take all this into account, that maybe some people do really great, for example, with smart recovery. On the other hand, maybe smart recovery doesn't work for other people. Right? Maybe Alcoholics Anonymous works for some, but not for others. And so this idea he promoted that let's look at the individual and what is needed by the individual is one of the key features of his work. Anyway, that's it for this episode, and we'll be back next time with another of William White's ideas.